Viral Media Network presents the Sam Jack Podcast. I'm not a professional, but wait, I am. Today's guest, DJ Champagne Hughes and Miss Ryan Nicole. Welcome to the Sam Jack Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. I am your host, Sam DJ Lumberjack, the host of the Sam Jack Podcast. I'm not a professional, but wait, I am for the creative professional out there doing their thing, creating their own destiny, being their own entrepreneur. We have a great show today. We have some very powerful women, entertainers, talented females. One, a self-proclaimed quadruple threat. I think that's the first quadruple threat I've ever heard of, to my knowledge. Miss Lady Ryan Nicole, not Lady Ryan, Miss Ryan Nicole, and DJ Champagne Hughes with us. So thank you, ladies, for joining us. How is everyone doing out there in the ether, in the shelter-in-place times? Are we doing okay?
Doing all right. Like, I think Kanye says that I'm surviving. I wasn't drinking earlier nor driving, but I'm surviving. Everything's good. That's the most I could ask for right now.
My alcohol intake has personally ticked up. I mean, I think I'm drinking close to every night. I need to rein it back. Hopefully, I mean, it's not I'm not overdoing it, but a couple drinks a night, just to sort of round out the edges, as they say. So
I hear you. I'm chilling. How about you, Champagne?
I'm good. I have my ups and downs. I'm feeling pretty up today. The last couple of days, I've had some downs, just reflecting on, what's happening around me, honestly. And I have lovely people. Sorry, my day job is like ringing up.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get it. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
No doubt. But yeah, I'm happy to have such a great support system, Ryan especially, to help me be grounded with myself, especially during these times, and let me know that I am not alone. How I'm feeling, and that everything is so heightened right now. So. But I feel like today is a day where I'm just like, I'm ready to tackle some things. I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Lumberjack? How are you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like I said, I'm trying to maintain and out of work because most of my income was through sports broadcasting, and that, of course, as you know, has totally dried up, and it's a blessing and a curse because it's allowed me to do what I've always wanted to do, is my own, side project. Well, I want them to not become side projects and make Viral Media Network kind of a profitable thing. So hopefully that will be profitable. That will be possible, and I can just keep doing awesome interviews with folks like you and share the creative process, I guess you could say. Yeah. I don't know.
I hear you.
Try and make good food and just reconnect with the family, keep the house nurtured and that kind of thing. So
all important.
Yeah.
Word.
So I initially wanted to interview you two specifically because you started in this shelter-in-place time. You started this virtual open mic. Of course, now you see a whole bunch of people doing streaming up the wazoo. But I feel like I want to say some early adopters out there of figuring it out, at least locally. And I was gracious enough. You were gracious enough to accept me in, and part of what I want to reconnect with is being able to perform creatively. And you gave me an outlet for that. So I want to start the conversation there. How did you two come about that and just say, like, we've got to do this, instead of like huddling back and just sort of like, oh my gosh, we're stuck in our houses, we can't go anywhere, like be proactive and make something happen?
Yeah. I'll start. Ryan, have always responded in this way in the midst of tragedy. And I think in the midst of crisis, I think this particular crisis has made me see that. and help crystallize that notion for me that when global or even local or regional situations happen or had things that happen that impact community, I'm kind of one who brings people together. And it's because it's the best way for me to grieve and process and mourn. I don't do well in isolation. And so the first thing that I often do is call on community and figure out how other people are processing, if they want to process together. And because art is one of my mediums, I figure out, I ask people if they want to process via art. And, the only way we could gather really was through social media or through the internet. And I used to host an open mic and always found that it was a space that people, got really free in and could talk about all issues. And so, it kind of came to mind, and I put it out in a Facebook post, and Champagne was one of the first people who said, yes, let's do it. And she had a Zoom account.
That made it work, right? That made it all gravy.
And she's a great DJ and also a theater buff. And, we were both kind of coming off the abrupt end of both of our shows. And so I think we both needed a space to express. We needed that creative outlet. What say you, Champagne?
Yeah, that's really what it was. I was performing in a show that was canceled. We just extended, and it would have been our that week that we closed would have been like our actual ending week, but we took it like day by day with each other. We were just like, okay, we saw some people in our audience wearing masks, and we're like, this is kind of interesting. And we had a talk that night where like, how do people feel? Do you want to continue? We'll take it day by day. I'm like, let's take it day by day, because I thought we would be the ones that would survive this, the closures, as every theater, San Francisco closed and Broadway closed and Berkeley closed. Like everyone was like trickling, and I was like, that's okay. We're going to make it. And then like 2 hours before our call time, we got an email.
Wow.
And I was stuck. Like I ended up doing a Facebook Live, and I didn't know how sad I really was, but I felt like I was mourning a death and just like grieving because I didn't have closure. I didn't have anything. And then I think that very next day, that's when Ryan was like, virtual open mic. I said, yes, give it to me, because I needed something to work on, because all my DJ gigs were canceled. Like every one of them, and which heavily like affected my income, and that for DJing and actually being able to DJ was like, this is giving me purpose during these times. So I needed an activity. I needed to move. I needed to do something. So immediately I was like, I didn't know how or what it was going to look like. I was just like, Ryan, I'm here. What do you need? I got a Zoom. Is that gonna, how can we make this happen? And that was it. I mean, we've known each other, I think almost close to a decade now. We've been in each other's like pools during a decade. We finally, it just clicked. It's a moment for us to work together. And I'm happy that it did.
Samesies.
I mean, that's awesome. And having participated, there was I unfortunately only caught the first one, but I can say I was there for the first one.
That's right.
But it just seemed, and I'm sure from there it only grew, but like the eclectic nature and the range from poetry to sort of like acting monologues to I guess I'm not in the realm, so forgive me if I don't know the lingo, but the lexicon, but to musicians, to folks like me that are just trying to like, join the crowd,
there were operas. The opera singer was there.
Opera singer. Yeah, that was amazing. That was amazing. And then, from an audio standpoint, from an audio tech, standpoint of me, I'm always like, oh, look at their rig, and then I'm like, wait, they're just doing it from their phone. It's not going to sound good, but it's like the acoustics of their room and their knowledge of how they project the voice. I mean, opera singers specifically, like right? They know how to. So speak to the, sort of eclectic nature. And I guess that sort of speaks to both of your breadth of like, network of friendship and colleagues, but like, how did that eclectic nature sort of come together, or was it more spontaneous, friends of friends, word of mouth, or or your just reaction to it?
Yeah, friends of friends, word of mouth, I would say is kind of the way it happened. The beautiful thing about social media is you put an idea out there, and if it resonates, it catches on like wildfire, and this one did. And so there were probably 60% of the people I had never seen before, would have probably never encountered in my own personal life. So yeah, it was just kind of a viral thing, as it were. Yeah, my reaction to it, I was really amazed and impressed with the eclectic nature. I think it does represent certainly what the Bay Area is. And even though we had a bit of a global presence that evening and have had since, it felt real Bay Area. It felt like, every culture, every race, every creed, every talent. And there was movement there as well. And everybody was in the room under the same circumstances. And that was really, really powerful. I think that's the unique thing that we have in the Bay Area, that no matter what your socioeconomic status is, your race, your religion, whatever, we find common ground in loving this place that we're from, and loving the things that we're about. And we were able to kind of cultivate that experience somehow, by the grace of God, in that Zoom room, for the quarantine virtual open mic.
That's pretty cool. Champagne, do you have anything to add to that, or your own reactions, or obviously the opera. I'm guessing the opera connection came from you, but I know Ryan acts as well, so I don't want to admit it. You're both actors, so.
No, I kind of have to agree. I mean, I knew a certain percentage, but I think our first one is like 60% of people that I didn't know. So my thought is like, either that could have came from her community or that came from mine, but there was just so many folks that, the word of mouth, like people I've never met. And it was such I think this was an international group. Like there were people that were all over the world that came, and I was like, where did you find this out? But it was such a need for people to be able to express themselves. And it just, I mean, I think even later after that, the different art forms started showing up. We've had dancers. Even last night we had a dancer, which is awesome. People came in with acoustic instruments, and some people, we even had I don't know if it was the first night, but producer who just wanted to talk about their work that they were doing. And we wanted to make sure that this was open for all to express, and definitely first line responders who just wanted to come up and just say something, what was on their mind. So we had a plethora of individuals that were just open to wanting to share and just wanting to just to reach out and talk. And this is kind of going into a little bit of programming, but now we've opened it up to do a check-in with people to see how they are doing, and and just be able to have a place where people can talk and express themselves, really be real, and let others, like I mentioned before, to let other people know that we're all going through it. We're all on the same page. But it's been wonderful to, I say that to say it's been great to connect in this manner, emotionally, creatively. It's been wonderful to establish family, especially those that are coming regularly every week, who anticipate it every week, think about it throughout the week so that they can actually attend.
Yeah.
It's been such an honor to just to be a part of that movement, and happy that other people are doing it too. But I know I'm rambling about it, but
No, not at all.
it's been so many different types of cultures, backgrounds, ages,
Yeah.
even. We
Yeah.
have little, oh
Talk
my
about that
God.
some more. Like
Our-
young kids,
Yes,
Yeah.
like
yes.
young rock stars, like just ready to shred.
Yeah.
Tell them the age. I think you know them, but we have like 2 children who like took over.
Yeah, there
the-
was one young lady. I think she was 10. Yeah, I may be exaggerating her age, but I'm pretty sure she
No,
was,
I think so. I think she was like,
yeah,
yeah, she was a
about
preteen
10
for
years
sure.
old. Yeah, she sang Man in the Mirror and remixed it and did Woman in the Mirror. And I think we had another young person, but we've also had elders in the room. You know, even though Tracy Barlow would probably cringe at the fact that I'm calling her an elder, she danced last night. And, you know, I truly see her as a maven of the dance community and the art community in the Bay Area and beyond. Many people know her through her photography and her movement work and all kind of different things, poetry, all kind of different things. And she joined us last night, and it's just so fresh when somebody comes in with that kind of wizened perspective and shares with us. So it's not just this like millennial crew of people who know how to access the internet. My aunt got on last night. She's in her mid 60s. You know, it's just been really, really nice to feel the breadth of community, and again to know that we're doing something that is healing for folks. Like, everybody also who comes doesn't share, but there are regulars who come just to sit. Like, they make dinner and they watch, or they're just in the space, and they come to rely on it every Wednesday.
That's great. So you mentioned the ages, and you also mentioned the different, you know, it was globally different countries. You know, so just, you know, brief list. You know, you don't have to be, you know, exact, but where are we here? What corners of the earth are we talking about? Like,
Well, I know we got Mexico, we got Canada. I know we got all the four corners of this continent. I don't really know where else.
yeah,
But I know for sure that those people reported. You know, I should, and every time I say that, you know, I'm doing the show, I'm like, oh, I should have asked people where they were from. You know, it feels so much like you're in people's living rooms that it really doesn't matter where
yeah,
folks are from. Like, you feel
yeah.
like you're in space with, you know, at home with people for real. And so it's important for, like, you know, it's important for metrics. And when I'm thinking with my business hat on, I'm like, I should have asked, but for the most part, we get right into the vibe and, you know, break bread and share with each other.
Yeah. Well, that's a good segue. You just said put your business hat on. So the subtitle of this podcast is "I'm not a professional, but wait, I am." And Champagne, you can chime in when you feel like it. But I'm gonna drill Ryan here for a sec. So the idea of that subtitle is being, as a freelancer, at least for me, my perspective, it's can be feast or famine. Sometimes you're really busy. Sometimes you're working a lot. You work on a project for months or weeks, and then it kind of, you know, something goes cold, or there's like that development phase or pre-production that you have to do that's just sort of talking and meeting and not any sort of, you know, you don't get to the meat of it, so to speak. And you have to kind of juggle that, or we have, you know, our day jobs that pay the bills. And for me, that was, as much as I love sports, as much as I love what I do in broadcasting, what I really love is, you know, performing and being creative. So talk about, for those that are listening that are trying to cross that threshold from just it being a hobby and a talent to this is actually something that's, like I like to say, creating your own destiny, being your own entrepreneur. How does that mind, not only the mindset, but the sort of practices and strategies to get there?
I will say, and maybe this is too modest to answer the question logistically, but I have been really graced in my journey as an artist, as a working artist. I started And I started, being an artist kind of like haphazardly. I wasn't supposed to do this. I was supposed to be going to law school. I was supposed to be focusing on public policy. I was working in public policy for several years and in the nonprofit sector. But I kept getting pulled into art. Even the final nonprofit that I ran was an arts organization. And I found myself doing much less grant writing and much less financial backing and all of that, as I did doing the programming and leading workshops and classes and finding myself in communion with the other artists in the space. But the benefit that I learned from running nonprofits was all the back end structure that it takes to run a business. And so when my tenure as an executive director ended, I had all of the institutional knowledge of how a business is scaffolded, how promotions work, marketing, again, finances, development, so on and so forth, programming, blah, 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 which, branding, all that crap that graduated from marketing and advertising, and was able to parlay that over into my own business operations. So I have done I've never jumped off of the boat or the diving board or however people call it. I've never jumped fully into the art. And, a lot of people would say that that's not the right way to go. But what I have been able to do was sustain myself in this very expensive Bay Area, kind of toggling between worlds. And
Right.
while I would not advise that for people who know exactly what they want to do, for people who are still kind of trying to figure it out, for people who have multiple talents, who are polymaths like me, or who are just not quite sure about what direction to go in, I say if you have something stable, something that doesn't drain you too much emotionally, and allows you to still focus and even gives you a bit of fuel to focus on your artistic endeavors, then I say do that, until you cannot do that anymore. I did a very, I basically shaved off time annually for like the last 10 years where I was working 100% in nonprofit or 100% in public policy and not at all in art, and then 90% and then 80% and so on and so forth, to where now the balance is different and I'm 90% an artist and 10% consulting. That consultancy has been important for me to keep, not because the finances are such that they pay my bills, but because tax-wise, it's important to have a W-2 on your records. And I think that was some of the most sage wisdom I received from a working artist. He keeps a 9 to 5, even though it's not 9 to 5. It might be 9 to 5 one day of the entire week. But he keeps it for the W-2 because it allows for more write-offs and more forgiveness in the tax code. Now, with the tax code shifting and all of that, I don't know what's going to happen. But I will say that one piece of advice has allowed me to retain some level of financial stability that I wouldn't otherwise have. It also keeps my foot in kind of the traditional world. So when circumstances like this hit, I am not panicked. I know that I have clientele. I know that I have opportunities in the other world. Unfortunately, art is still tenuous. And what I do a lot on the consultancy side of things now is advocate on behalf of arts organizations, and culture, so that art isn't this shaky, and that it is a viable career path for many, and you don't have to sacrifice your entire life or your family life in order to become an artist, and cast all cares to the wind. So anyways, it's kind of a roundabout talk, but
No, I'm not. No, I was just gonna say, like, we have good conversations here, but there's little gems of wisdom that you can pick up on if you listen carefully. So Ryan just hit you with some game there. All right. So you weren't rambling at all.
Good.
I was gonna say it's kind of like there's two ways of saying it. Everyone says in the Bay, you got your side hustle, right?
Yeah.
And whether your side hustle is your creative side or your side hustle, what gives you your W-2, because I sort of mix that. A lot of the stuff I do is W-2 because it's luckily through a nice union job. The union has a contract with the broadcasters and the venues to do all the sports games. But there are some private clients that I have, and that's where you're probably talking about the 1099s, right?
Right.
And if you don't know, if you're not aware, you're technically supposed to, you know, you could do taxes quarterly, or you could do it at the end during the tax season and do your whole expense sheet then. So that little gem of wisdom, don't consider it rambling, okay? Because
Good.
uh, you definitely put some gems, especially now tax season. You know, everyone, it's been extended, right? They extended the deadline, so that's definitely important. And I think, you know, if you have more to add to that, or if Champagne, you have something to say based on that as far as.
Well, and I will say this last little point, you know, AB5 hit us as artists and independent contractors it was pretty devastating last year, at least it was perceived to be. But some of the work that I do with the Recording Academy, which is the Grammys, have just shifted that for musicians and artists. So I haven't read the law entirely, but there have been modifications in California to AB5 to accommodate artists, because AB5 was not at all sympathetic to us.
Yeah, can you talk about, if you don't mind, talk about that briefly, because there's a lot of misinformation going around. I wasn't sure at first, and then maybe it was explained to me wrong, but from what I understand, it is that differentiation between W-2s and 1099. So if you're not on it, basically they want to shift more people onto W-2s, and if you're on a 1099, you basically get taxed more. They tax you more. Is that basically how it shakes down?
Right. They're really trying to eliminate all 1099s for whatever reason. I don't know why. And I'm not an expert in this. What I do know is it was going to affect me pretty adversely. Because as an artist, you know, so one of the clients that I have is the San Francisco Jazz Foundation, or San Francisco Jazz. I work with San Francisco Jazz maybe 5 hours a week as a teaching artist. And that works just fine as 1099 or as a contractor. But with AB5, they wanted us to switch over to the W-2, which meant that I would have access to all the resources and the benefits that San Francisco Jazz provides, but at their policy level, I don't qualify. So I don't qualify for their medical. I don't qualify.
5 hours a week, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is the case for many teaching artists or many working artists who are working with several different organizations. Or if you are an artist who employs other artists, you know, so I'm a band leader. For Girl 6, for example, I hire out 12 band members, you know, every quarter, let's say, for a show. And that would mean that I would have to hire these people. I have to create a whole business structure, hire these people, create W-2s for each one of those.
Bring them on as employees as opposed to just freelance. Yeah,
exactly. So you know, so it was really prohibitive for the artist community. And there are a million examples that you know are out there that speak to why that was problematic.
Yeah, basically, I feel like it was intended for, you know, like companies like Uber who are making lots of money, circumventing the fact that they don't have to, their whole workforce are 1099.
Exactly.
And, you know, that's how Uber is becoming successful and making a lot of money, but it's not democratizing it because we found the real price of, you know, Uber drivers. You know, they're not necessarily making a lot of money. They got to pay for their own expenses, their own wear and tear in their car, that kind of thing. So I feel like it was intended for that.
It was.
We just get all lumped in it. So yeah. But at the same time, creating your own business, especially as you grow, creating an LLC can help for certain tax purposes. So as they say on TV, consult your financial planner, right?
Right. When you get one. Or your mom, if you have one.
Thank you so much for listening. This is Sam Jack, your host. Make sure to subscribe to us. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcast. Just search the Sam Jack Podcast. Thank you so much. You can find us on YouTube. Our channel is Viral Media Network 415. The playlist is the Sam Jack Podcast. I'm not a professional, but wait, I am. Check out all the other great playlists on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the interview. So let's segue to Champagne, because you had recently mentioned on our prepping for the interview that you are soon to be executive director. So we're talking about, I'm not a professional, but wait, I am, sort of juggling the sort of, I like how Ryan phrased it, where it's like you're shaving off the sort of time you're putting into the machine or the system and making more your time. And then now she's whittled it down to her consulting. So talk about how you sort of keep your foot in both camps, so to speak, or are they connected? Sort of like, yeah, how's that working out?
Oh, scheduling.
Yeah.
That's what's keeping me afloat. So I guess long story short, I do have a day job. In which while y'all were chatting, I was like, cool, emails. Let me get on that. So my day job is I'm an executive assistant at Oracle by day. So that's my 9 to 5 is really like my 8 to 3. And after that, I dedicate a lot of my extracurricular activities, my serious hobbies, if you will, to the arts as a DJ, producer, actor. And now an executive director. I just like during these times, it's funny, I'm so happy and so thrilled to, in this moment, to kind of give two different perspectives. Like Ryan's like the full-time artist, right? And I'm like the full-time not artist. I'm the full-time.
Good balance.
I'm the full-time corporate person. In my background, I used to manage theaters, spaces like to the core for like 12 years. I was a manager at ACT, Berkeley Rep, Beach Blanket Babylon, the Flight Deck in downtown Oakland. I managed that space for 4 years and 3.5, 4 years. And then I, got into a relationship, and they were like, how are we going to get this house and pay for the kids and all this stuff? And I was like, I'll make money, but I also have student loans. I'm part of that crew that's like a lot of my income is going to student loans, and the loan, the debt to income ratio doesn't even get you a freaking RV in Oakland. So, so it took me actually like 2 years to break up with the arts because that's all I knew. Like I'm a theater arts major at San Jose State, and all I can think about was like, I'm gonna open a dinner theater space in downtown Oakland before it was like, hitting the prices right now. And I was close.
Right.
Best believe, like
low, right.
Right. I was like 3 years ago, I was close to signing the contract, but it was like it would have been challenging, and I definitely would have had to, cohabitate with other companies. And I'm a selfish person when it comes to. So I was like, I don't want to. It's either me or nobody. But it kind of. I made that shift 2 years. Like it was like breaking up with damn near a toxic relationship. When you're in a relationship where it's like they're abusive, but you love them, and they never stop reminding you how much you love each other. I'm gonna slap you in the face, but baby, here's some roses and chocolate. The next day, I need you. And so it was hard.
We call that the Ike and Tina, right?
Well, yes, that's what my relationship was, especially as a woman of color in the administrative component of the arts.
Interesting. How so?
Oh, honey, that's another podcast. We ain't got time for that.
You don't want that.
We don't have time.
I mean, we don't. Yeah, maybe.
All right, let me finish. I'll be more than happy. Okay. Ryan will be more than happy to talk. We can jump on a part 2 with that.
Okay.
And that I want to answer your question. And I'm kind of just like trying to give you the reasons, like how I got here, and where I'm going and how I'm juggling all of this. And so I was able to, in the corporate world, discover where my talents was as a manager in the arts, where would best fit. And being an executive assistant best fit because, you know, I was the hat. I had many hats, excuse me, in the arts. Like I was the HR manager, I was the finance director, I was the company manager, as far as like helping all the artists make sure they know where they were supposed to go, where they're supposed to eat, where they're supposed to live, making their parties. Like I did it all. So, and that's kind of what it was in the office management. So it ended up being an executive assistant. So cool. Now I got a job that's helping me actually live and maintain as a single Black woman in Oakland. I don't have any other income to rely on. I don't have those financial resources that some may have. I had to figure out how to make it. And me going through the corporate world was a way of me being able to make it. And again, happy that Ryan is doing it as an artist because I want to get there. Like that's where I want to. And I know she's shaking her head because it's like, it's a battle, but there's something loving, there's something amazing. It's something that's always rewarding through the good and the bad when you are being able to live in your authentic self. And that's what I appreciate the most. And the risk taking that is there. And I'm like a calculated ×2 person of like when it comes to risks. I'm like, I like calculated risks. So I'm like, I haven't calculated stuff yet, but I had gotten to a point where I could have made DJing a full-time job. I'm very happy and excited to be like, yes, I was halfway last year. Or as soon as I got Oracle, I was like, I started booming on like getting DJing gigs. And I love, oh my God, I was just telling my mom I was like, I love my boss because he supports me in the arts and what I want to do. And it's so great. Like they make it hard for me to leave because they're allowing me to be able to be the artist that I am while knowing that they have someone that can do the work. Because I don't have the executive assistant title, never did, but they trusted my personality, the way that I commit, and they know that the show must go on. And they do that. So it was really, I'm so happy to be with this crew. So I'm like, do I really want to I don't know. I like my benefits. Benefits. So it's great. So just to kind of push along, I had a really nice income with DJing, and it did make me think, I was like, I think I can do this full time. Then, you know, with acting, I was like, oh, you know what? I now have the confidence to audition because I hated auditioning. That's why I went to the admin world because it felt like Judgment Day. Again, another conversation, we can get into that. But I finally got the confidence to where I was like, cool. Oh my God, I miss being on stage. Oh, being behind the stage, I lied to myself 12 years. I'm like, I'm ready to be back on stage. Yeah. So I was like, I think I could do
the bug again.
Yeah, the bug is not even it. It's like I got, no pun intended, the virus. I got the virus. So
the good kind. The good
kind. So that was helping me live. So I was like, I think I can do this. So then I was gonna go for my MFA. I was gonna audition for Juilliard, Tisch, all that, because I was like, you know what, this is it. Being back on stage, I can make it happen. So my auditions would be in January coming up, and I would be prepping right now for it. And when I noticed that Broadway got shut down, I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do it. So, and then what started, so as we started doing this, what is it called? The open mic and all of that, I was writing a one-woman show. And I was like, this is, the one-woman show that I had was pre-COVID, right? And I was like, well, let me take the time to, hey, I'm on a staycation slash workation. Might as well just work on myself, come out with a boom,
Mm-hmm.
But that show wasn't hitting it. It was like, and it felt too forced to try to marry it to the current time. So I was like, I got to figure out something else and what works with me and how I want to work. So I was thinking about Anna Devere Smith, who kind of coined verbatim theater here in the US, though it's like it happens, quite often in the European countries. But it was like taking, interviewing people who've been affected indirectly or directly by COVID and like saying how they feel about their current situation verbatim. So it's taking like the 3 to 5 minutes out of that hour interview and reenacting that on stage. So that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to do this so I can stay connected to the arts. But also while I was doing that, I interviewed some people that are thespians. I mean, that's a lot of my community, and someone that was actually on Broadway. And, to hear about his story, he actually had COVID and he's unemployed. And he's like the star of like a couple of well-known, and I was like, wow, I'm so blessed to like be able to get in contact with you.
Yeah.
I was like, for someone who had lead roles in like, he's an understudy, but like, Jersey Boys and Frozen and all that. I was like, but you're like this. And for me, I was like, oh, I'm not ready yet. And it's not so much as I'm ready, like I love my craft, but I was like, I want to be able to find something in which when we are in these times, what's going to help me withstand like this economic tragedy that we're in, this crisis that we're in. Right. So immediately I'm like, that's why I'm so happy about this show. I talked to my big brother who's in a fraternity, and I told him about everything that I was doing, and then he ended up saying, okay, Dr. Hughes. I was like, what's happening here? Because I told him about like a dissertation I want to write. I didn't know it would be a dissertation. And he was like, look, this is what you need to do. Get a master's in drama therapy and a PhD in human sexuality. I was like, I think this is what I'm going to do. So literally I just made a shift. And this was like 3 weeks ago. I was like, yeah, I'm not going for my MFA, but I am going to stay dedicated to the arts. Like, I'm going to be that person that, fully wants to invest, to teach, to coach, to be fully immersed in it. Like, that's never going to go away. But I also feel like for me, I have to think about what's my anxiety level and like my mental level of like, if this were to happen again, which it might, who knows in what capacity, but something similar, right? What is going to be that degree, that lovely piece of paper that America adores so much, that is going to help me stand these times? So so I just started my nonprofits, 3 lovely nonprofits. I'll be an executive director and board chair member soon. I plan on having my one-woman show go under my arts foundation. So it's so crazy to hear that.
So you are making the plunge, because I love that. I love how you started off by basically arguing for the fact that it's good to have kind of like a full 9 to 5. I know, Ryan, you were talking a little bit about that, even if it is just, dipping your toes in it, or like, a couple days a week, something that gives you that W-2 or the benefits, the minimum. Yeah. But then now you're like, okay, well, I'm putting in that time. And while I assume you'll still be working at Oracle while you're going to school and studying, right?
Yes, so, that's the plan. Yeah. And I think too,
quite a juggling act, but
I'll be fine. So with Ryan, I think what we're both trying to say is we have to think smart and intelligently around how we are able to secure finances during these times, in the way of, we got to play the game. We have to play it. And whatever works, like how Ryan and her colleague is doing it, even if it has to be a 9 to 5 for the week, even if it has to be the 9 to 5 or the 40 hours a week, however, whatever works, we're still finding our ways to connect with the arts and still live in our authentic selves. But we have to play the game in a way to where we are not burdened with taxes and with these other things that like, to where we are then on the other side of that wealth gap, you know. And we know we are, but it's that we need to do what's necessary to survive financially so that we can still be able to live in our authentic selves. And that's just that's what my nonprofits are gonna do. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, that's another way, but it's also still fulfilling parts of me that I've always wanted to do. So if the opportunity presents itself, I have a nonprofit. I know what needs to be done. And what to do. So I'm like, if anything, that's another teaching moment.
Yeah, write that down for a lesson. You know, it could be a full lesson right there. You just around it. Well, no, like as I was saying, as Ryan was saying, you know, and I mentioned, okay, well, you know, some call it, you know, don't quit your day job. It's a side hustle, but it is that thing where, you know, it's that mindset of diversifying.
That's
you know,
right.
like they say, when we invest in stocks, you know,
That's right.
I in fact would hope to get into investing in stocks a little bit more, but that's a whole, like you said, that's a whole other side conversation. But it's that diversifying, and it's becoming self-sustainable in multiple ways. You know, I talk a lot about, you know, it's the hippie in me, but you know, if you have space, growing a garden, even in an apartment, you can, you know, grow your own food. And before the, you know, the second, they call the Industrial Revolution kind of like late 1800s, but the second wave is World War II, when everything started to be in camp, food started being processed. But, you know, before that, you know, the majority of households grew their own fruits and vegetables and sustained themselves, and really only went to the store for stuff they couldn't do, like butcher meat and the bigger items, right? So that's another mindset, and applying that to not only financial goals, but ways of bringing in income, whether it be what they call passive income, looking at investing in property, looking at all the talents you had, putting your cards on the table and saying, well, how can I create businesses out of these, as opposed to being dependent on, like I said before, sort of the system or the machine. You know, I don't want to get too cliche here, but, you know, or also realizing, as Champagne was alluding to, is sometimes that system, you know, in order to get the benefits, in order to, you know, finding the right fit, that you're not sort of quote unquote selling out, but at the same time being able to bring in enough money and bring in the benefits to maintain your lifestyle and maintain your interest in creativity, right?
It's important. And I don't want to negate the fact too that, you know, I've been afforded a lot of these opportunities because my husband has like a legitimate 9 to 5, and his job, even though my consultancy has medical, takes care of all of our benefits. And so, you know, I'd be remiss not to mention that. And I know that that's like a privilege that a lot of people don't have. You know, my husband really, he has a consistent 9 to 5, like for real.
Right.
And that allows me, even though I don't take as much umbrage as I should, it kind of allows me to float around a little bit if I want.
I mean,
yeah,
I think,
and I want to add to that too, because I too don't want to negate the people who don't have those privileges, and people that I've talked to who are actually really happy with like where they're at, or it's such a familiar place for them that this is like nothing, you know, like. So it's just that I know what works for me, and I have to be honest with myself of like what I feel gives me the most security in my life. But there are people who like are totally fine where they, of course we're like, we all wish we had more, we, you know, we all wish we had other things to just make this a much more comfortable experience while we're doing this. But everyone knows what works for them. And it's great again for me to hear from Ryan, her being a full-time artist, and like other full-time artists or people who are like full-time corporate and doing like, so it's just great to kind of get those perspectives. But yeah, I just wanted to, appreciate and congratulate those who are completely full-time artists, who don't have, again, the privileges that we do, and recognize that and honor that and give thanks to them to staying within their craft and making it work. So I definitely wanted to just shout out to them and appreciate them.
Absolutely. And I do say we've touched on is it's finding that balance and knowing that, we're not on a level plateau. Like the world has textures, right? There's peaks and valleys. We go through stages, and, Ryan said it too, where, she had a percentage and she was whittling away, and, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, and we shift based on our needs. And I also think there is something to say about, if you do want to pursue a 9-to-5, well, there's certain, as we've touched upon, there's certain 9-to-5s where, you might not need to come in to the office 5 days a week. You might have home office, especially now, right? Or there might be part-time stuff that will allow you enough income to maintain what you do in the creative artistic realm. So I think the point, I'm not trying to speak for either of you, but part of the stuff we're talking about is just trying to find that balance and realizing that
That's right.
It's a journey. The joy is in the journey, right? Like it's never going to be the same thing at the same time. We're never going to have, hopefully, there's a consistency level that everyone would like to get to. But being able to, or as Champagne has alluded to, just completely change trajectory, like, just decide that you follow your heart, right? Like that's part of life, right?
I think the gift is, and the goal is to be agile enough to respond to whatever, to identify your gifts, your talents, your interests, to exploit those to the extent that it doesn't wear you out, and to be agile enough to cultivate those gifts, develop those talents, develop those interests, employ them, implement them, and toggle between, each one of them at will, depending on, what the circumstances call for. I think agility is really certainly my goal. Now that I've kind of graduated from the stage of finding out what my talents are, and we're always going to be in the process of cultivating our gifts and talents. You talked about gardening. We're always in the process of cultivating, harvesting, all the time. And now I'm in also trying to figure out how to toggle, how to go from, one thing to the next.
Yeah, mine mission has been to be honest with myself, and to capitalize on the energy that I may be feeling at that moment, for whatever it is that I want to do. Like, I gotta, this is health-wise, but it was, 5 days from now will be my 60th day for completing my juice fast. Yeah.
Nice. That's not easy.
No, it's not. I know. So it'll be 60 days. But I say that to say that the moment that I knew I was going to do it, it was that day where I was like, I was looking at like, well, this is something that I want to do, being honest. And like, if I'm going to do it, it has to be today. And literally that day I ended up like taking all my food and like donating it to people because I needed to capitalize on that energy. It was like, if I have this thought right now and it's living in every part of me, like literally when I walk in the kitchen, it was like, that's all I can think about. When I walked outside, when I went grocery shopping, that's all I can think about. I was like, I need to be honest with living in my truth and making that shit happen. Like actually just going for it. Because if I don't, and I'm like, oh, I'll wait till tomorrow. Oh, I'll wait the next day. It'll never get done. And that's just how I am. So anytime that, even if it's like not just high moments like that, but it's low moments. If I know, like recently, I'm not going to lie, I've been juggling between depression and anxiety. And I'm like, I got to be honest with myself. I have to say that this is the state that we're in right now. And everybody is feeling this way. What can I do to literally get myself? So before this, I'm not gonna lie, I forgot that we had an interview, but I've like I brought my book because I was like getting up and I was like, I no longer want to feel like this anymore. What can I do? And my whole day was just going to be about meditation and reading a book. But this is what I mean, is about being honest and dedicated and listening to yourself. I think that's the other thing, is like, learn how to listen to yourself. Hi, Onyx. And then, so I don't want to go on about that, but I think there's something important about listening to that voice that is speaking to you to live, and your, what is the word I'm looking for? To live it's not truth.
Authenticity.
Not authenticity. It's something about being whole. It's
Balance.
your highest self.
Okay. That's like that's a very Buddhist perspective, right? Like, thank you so much for listening. This is Sam Jack, your host. Make sure to subscribe to us. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcast. Just search the Sam Jack Podcast. Thank you so much. You can find us on YouTube. Our channel is Viral Media Network 415. The playlist is the Sam Jack Podcast. I'm not a professional, but wait, I am. Check out all the other great playlists on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the interview. I think it's interesting because I've talked a lot about, I do this live vlog in the afternoons, and a lot of things I talk about is basically, if you're affected by the virus, that's the first priority. But if you're not working, or you're working from home and you find yourself, oh, I'm at home and I have too much time, what am I going to do to, stave off all? It's like, it's room for improvement. This is a huge opportunity for anyone out there that's had a to-do list, or I've always wanted to do this, or I do this, but I'm not passionate about it, or like, I don't feel like I'm wholehearted about it. And like you said, just do it. Don't put it off till the next day, and just try it. And it doesn't have to happen overnight. Incremental steps. And as I mentioned before, 1 step forward, 2 steps backwards. Sometimes, like, it's not a straight trajectory. Sometimes, like, you have to find that what motivates you, but also know that it's a journey, and that, like, this is an opportunity for us to really discover, like you said, find your voice. And like I always like to think of myself as an optimist, right? Where it's like, you always got to look at the bright side, like almost put horse blinders on, where it's like, no, like, I'm going to focus on nurturing the family and getting to the things that didn't happen when I was working all the time, or I was bogged down with all the commitments, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying really rings true. And as much as we can get wrapped up in what's happening on, what Mr. Agent Orange is saying, and between him fighting with Fauci, and everyone wearing masks, and the protocol, and getting shamed for not wearing a mask, or it's a brave new world, right? Like,
yeah, for those of us who choose to be brave,
So I know, Ryan, you gotta go in a minute. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about some things, how you came up. You recently, not super recently, but recently joined the Alphabet Rockers, which is an awesome group. Talk a little bit about that and how that came to be, and sort of your experience, because you were nominated for a Grammy, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And just talk about that experience and what it's been like to kind of, we just saw your kid Onyx, and what it's like to been sort of tie your music career with now, like, kind of that education and performing for children.
Yeah, I mean, you saw my son. That's really the main objective. I was in Zoo Labs at the same time as the Alphabet Rockers, recording I collaborate with a million different artists, and I was recording something for someone else. And Caitlin and I have known each other since back in the day. She used to work for the Recording Academy, and I used to run the nonprofit I talked about. And so we knew each other in a different capacity eons ago. Caitlin, who was the founding member of Alphabet Rockers, and she and I have always been collaborators in some way, shape, or form. She hit me up while I was at the Zoo Labs, which is a recording facility, kind of a music incubator lab for musicians
place.
here. Yeah, it's great, in West Oakland. So anyways, I was there, and she asked me, you know, they had just come, this was on the heels of their first Grammy nomination. And she's like, I wanted you on the first album, and, you know, we didn't make it happen. And so can you get on this next album? And I said, you know, it's nothing but a word, like whatever. So her and Tommy ran me a beat. Tommy's also an old collaborator. I knew Tommy from theater. My first show here in the Bay Area was Shakespeare, or Hamlet, Blood in the Brain, a remix of Shakespeare. Tommy played my brother. I played Ophelia. Anyhow, he and I went way back. So he kicked me a beat. I liked it. We wrote this song that we collaborated with young people on, called Black Girl Magic. And they crowdsourced really the whole album. And so I was one of many of the writers on that project. We wrote the song, you know, put it in the queue, didn't think anything of it, heard the album, was like, this album is fire. Knew that I wanted to engage my son in what they were doing. Had been taking him to shows and all of that. And, you know, he was a little young. He was like 3 when they first dropped, maybe younger than that, when they first dropped that first Grammy nominated album.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one, and so he listened to that, but the second one he was really ready to hear. And so as I started to see him kind of connect to that project, I was being, you know, engaged and asked by Caitlin and them if I would be down to be involved. And I said, yeah, if we can engage my son, I would love to be involved. And they were like, yeah, that's why we're doing the music. You know, we have kids. And so it was just fitting. And so now I'm with them. They do they have transitioned their work to a daily classroom, hip hop classroom around social justice. Yeah, on Zoom.
Wow.
Wow is right. It's so ambitious. And they meet for an hour with folks from all over the place. They go over songs. They go over the reason for songs. They create art. They talk about social justice. They read social justice and progressive books. They did a whole thing on Earth Day yesterday. They're dope. And my engagement has been pretty intense, and it was intense in the very beginning. And since COVID, I've kind of been out of it a little bit, but my son attends the events regularly. And we're developing this Black Girl Magic workshop series that will run side by side with Alphabet Rockers Rock the Block. So that's it. I went to the Grammys with them. It was fresh. Yeah. Which is so ironic too, because the 2 major events of my year, the Grammys and doing Tony Stone, both were eclipsed by major catastrophic events. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what God's message is to me, but I'm just gonna sit down for a little while.
It means you're just as powerful.
Thank you. I'll take that. I'll take that.
No, but that just speaks to sort of, you know, what you were saying about diversifying. And, you know, I noticed that you have the Fit Trip
Yes.
video that you started about doing online fitness videos.
Yes.
And, you know, you've been on Team Backpack to sort of, you know, show what you got on the 16 bar scene. And then, you know, hosting High Road Day. So, you know, talk about how those experiences.
You famous.
I'm busy.
Talk about how that kind of, and then, you know, you mentioned you're doing a Bay Area in the future now. You're doing the Bay Area Theater Cipher.
Yeah.
And like a live hip hop event. So talk about sort of all these things and how that, you know, not only like performing, but also producing videos and events, like how that all culminates together.
Yeah, to stay with the rock that I've been quoting since the beginning of this podcast. I'm a hustler, baby. Like
There you go.
I'm from East Oakland, California. We talk about diversifying. That's all I know how to do is diversify and exploit talents. And so Hiro Day, I think what I'm learning in the later part of my life, the later part of this career, whatever, is, if you stay the course, you stay persistent, you will inevitably get better because you're constantly whittling that tool. And people will notice you. And so, I won't say it was some major thing. I've been around the Hiro crew for a long, long time. Got a song produced by DJ Toure of Hiro. I used to work with one of the managers of Hiro. Been kind of just tacitly involved with them over the years.
Shout out Hiro crew for real.
Shout out to Hiro crew for real, for real. Of course, like we all grew up on them, right? Like
Before they even had albums, you just had to find the mixtape somewhere, right? Like
mixtapes. My introduction to hip hop really came from Hiro, the whole hieroglyphics crew. And I'm grateful that that's the way that I was cultivated, because God bless these children nowadays. But anyhow, so, got introduced to those guys and have been kind of in the periphery for years. They asked me to come and host. And so I've hosted with them for the last couple of years, a couple of their stages with Chris Riggins, and it's been awesome. And then they do like a late night, or they did before COVID, a late night comedy hour, and I've been involved in that with them at their space. They're just cool group of dudes, all doing a bunch of different things too. Tajay's an architect, and Casual and his sister, well, certainly his sister is a cupcake maven, and everybody does a lot of different things. It's in the water here in Oakland. All the other endeavors are just kind of part and parcel of what I do, what I like to do. And, speaking to kind of what Champagne was saying, just kind of trying to be real with myself and find out what I'm interested in. And, now I'm beginning to pull away from things that I was curious about, that I wasn't really interested in, and really dive deep into the things that I love. Fit Trip, man. Fit Trip is my own brainchild and my baby. And one day when I have the right sponsorship, and we can open up the borders again for travel, I will go for Fit Trip again. Fit Trip is about traveling while being fit while on the go. So as an artist, and as an artist who's touring, or anybody who's working and traveling at the same time, staying fit is a real challenge. And being a woman and staying fit while on the go is also a challenge, because you can't just get out and run safely and know that you'll be okay. So I found that out several years ago and developed this idea called Fit Trip, which would help me identify very quickly the places within a 5-mile radius where I could get a great workout, a great meal, and just kind of stay fit while I was on the go, whether it be for business or leisure. And I stay fit. That's one of my 4 things, my threats. I'm an athlete. In a previous life before the art hit, I was a All-American track and field athlete, ran semi-pro and pro, went to college, California state champion.
Hey.
So this is still part of my life. Health and wellness, fitness, running, all of that is still part of my life, in as much as my Achilles will allow me. I think that kind of sums it up. I mean, there are other interests, but people can find out on my website, I guess, if they care.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up soon. I got a few more questions, if you don't mind. The last 2 are a little bit silly, just to kind of lighten the mood. Speaking of all this diversifying and sort of balancing what can be sustainable during this time, and sort of shifting performance and entertainment into it, what is the brave new world going to see for us? But do you feel like the way everyone's kind of sheltering in place and now figuring out how to be more sustainable, and I mean, do you feel like being a performer, being a freelancer, or an entrepreneur, do you feel like you already had that mentality before we're all shifting now to kind of this sense of like, hey, sometimes if the economy shuts down, I gotta have something that, you know, I've got that keeps me afloat and keeps me sustained. Do you feel like you already had that mindset, like doing what you did, like creatively?
I'll answer this as quickly as I can so Champagne can get to it because I see you're still ruminating on this one. My friend Jennifer Johns always says, we create the world that we imagine. And I think artists spend so much time imagining that we not only were prepared for this, but this is our time. The ground is fertile for artists, for creatives, for thinkers who think beyond the structures that are prescribed for us or have been prescribed for us for the past generation. So yeah, I think not only were we prepared, which is one thing, but I think we are ready to specify what the future holds and to seize the reins and take and redefine it right now. And so that's really a call to action to people, to all of us who consider ourselves creative in any capacity, that now is the time to imagine the world, to create the world you've been imagining in your own mind and thrust it forward.
Yeah, I mean, like, as I saw some meme that was like, now we're beginning to realize how important artists and performers are, because everyone's, you know, binge watching everything and watching Hulu and looking for all this content online and tapping into everyone's stream, you know, how important artists are and performers and entertainers. So I think you
What
kind of
would
hit
you
on.
do? What would people do right now were it
Yeah,
not for art content? Content is king.
yeah. Champagne.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think at first, because things were, canceling, and it kind of like my what my normal then was just like being stripped away. At first, I didn't know what to do until I finally accepted that we were going to be here for some time. I think that was little into like our 2 weeks, because I was like, cool, we on vacation, I can sleep, I can do whatever I want. But then it was something I needed something, and I've discovered that need was to move, to do something, and to be artistic. And I think Ryan is absolutely right. I think we as artists, we're always imagining things. And I have books, journals of things that I'm like, what could I do? I'm like, I got a list behind, actually, I don't know if you can see it, but it's my door. I like a list of things that I'm like, projects and that websites, everything that I want to do. And I'm like, yeah, if anything, I mean, a lot of people know me as an extrovert. I just became an introvert because I'm very excited of like being able to accomplish the things that I've always wanted to accomplish. And it's funny, when we first started, I was a little bit concerned that, well, the things that I'm doing, if I imagine, right, of coming out of these confines and being like this new reinvented, like this new Champagne, it was like, oh, now they're going to see like the most vulnerable parts of myself that I didn't think I would ever really tap into. So I was telling Ryan about this book called The Rise. Is Creativity, the Gift of Failure, and the Search for Mastery by Sarah Lewis. And it helped me so much of knowing what it was like to fail and be okay with failing. And there's something I'm trying to find a clip, because in this book, I read something about, I'm probably not quoting this verbatim, and I can't remember who wrote it, but it was something along the lines of creativity gives you room to make mistakes. Art are the mistakes you choose. And I'm probably not saying that verbatim, and I can't remember it.
That's perfect.
But it just gave me this whole sense of like, I am in the space to make so many mistakes in the most safest way possible.
Yeah.
And just to go crazy with those mistakes. And now when we go out, I get to pick which mistakes. Like, if you think about it, every show, every theater, every song, everything is a mistake. And it's a beautiful one.
Yeah.
It just ends up being like, we have a director or a producer or someone says, I like that mistake. Let's keep that one and let's do that over and over and over again. And it allows you to be comfortable with knowing, like, I'm a beautiful mistake. And now I get to, like, make this shit happen, you know? So it kind of, and I say that to say that it has given me the strength to not to be confident in what I'm doing. Like, hell, my nonprofits are a mistake. My things, like everything, it just gives me confidence to know that whatever I think about would, and it could be, and most likely would be amazing to someone else who may have had the same thought, or just didn't have the courage to produce it. And a lot of things that I say too is that my 20% is somebody else's 110%.
Yeah.
Like the things that we do, we self-criticize ourselves, we ridicule ourselves, we think, oh, this is stupid, oh, whatever. But to somebody else, it's like, wow, you had the courage to stand in front of somebody and give a speech, or to say a poem, or to sing a song, or to dance. Like this woman yesterday during our open mic, to go back to that, when she was dancing, and this was a freestyle, and she was like, this is my meditative space, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm speaking truth to my heart, and I want to share, and I've been waiting for a week and a half to share this. I'm like, oh my God, she's just free. And it's so freeing to be able to, like, live in
you can feed off that energy, right? You can.
You can. And I think it's something beautiful about that. So I gotta stop preaching, because I'm like,
no, that's great. That's part of the conversation we try to have on this podcast is, we talk about things, and then, we spark these ideas. And I was going to say, like, if you read the famous book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, or I don't know if you're familiar with the book, You Are a Badass, these are kind of more in the self-help, and, there's a little bit of a game to that. But what they all say is, when he was trying to publish that book, Jack Canfield, I think his name is, he was told no. Or you look at the author of Harry Potter, now her name is escaping me, but J.K. Rowling, right?
mm-hmm.
They were told no more than they were told yes. It takes only one yes, but they had the door shut on them several times. And the fact that they didn't give up or learn to tweak what they did based on their mistakes. I mean, you don't know something works or doesn't work until you throw it against the wall and see if it sticks, right? I mean, and there is some of that. And like you said, some of it is calculated risk. You got to be calculated, but some of it is being able to be free. Look at like Monty Python and how ludicrous their comedy is, right? Like, look at that on paper. If someone's reading that script, does that even make sense? It doesn't, but they were able to do it and keep doing it. And that wackiness, people ring true. So,
or you think about the best singers, like, the people, the guy who, I can't think of his name now, but the guy who led Queen, they didn't come out of the womb singing wonderfully. They had to scream and hit a lot of bad notes. And, like to get those lungs to hit those crazy notes, to hit those runs, like, you had to make a lot of mistakes to get there. And now you're proficient at, running down that razor's edge line of sharps and majors and whatever. But the process was probably pretty gnarly.
Mm-hmm. I just found who it is. It's Scott Adams. He's a cartoonist, I believe, an artist. And the exact quote is, creativity is allowing yourself to make mistakes. Art is knowing which ones to keep.
I love it. That's such a great quote.
It's wonderful. I'm sorry, guys. I have to run.
Yeah, no problem. Please. I want to thank you for coming. Real quick, can I ask you just a quick question before you go, or do you have to cut out?
No, tell me.
So this is just to lighten the mood. People have been saying, all sorts of like conspiracy theories on what this coronavirus is. Not to say that you believe in them, but I want to hear your most wackiest conspiracy theory that you've heard about this coronavirus, other than obviously, it's a virus that's spreading. But what if people would say, it's not really, I don't have to wear the mask because it's a fight, like.
I don't know if I actually put out a post on this on Facebook to get some giggles. I don't know if it's actually been put out there, but I have been saying that this was a scheme by Amazon and DoorDash and Uber Eats
For real.
to, to boost their revenue. Because, I don't want to go to the store, Instacart,
Right.
all of them,
Right.
to boost their revenue. So yeah, COVID is a manufactured virus of Amazon, Instacart, and Uber Eats. All right, so
Okay. Well,
I gotta
Ryan,
run.
thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon. Hope to join you
Besos.
soon. We'll
Yes.
talk to you soon. Take care. Keep
Peace.
fighting the good
Thank
fight.
you, man. Thank
Take
you.
care. Oh, well, thank you, Champagne. We'll just
Yeah.
ask you a few more questions, ask you the same question, and then we'll just wrap up. I know you probably have to get back to work as well. So,
Yeah. I do.
I'm not a professional, but wait, I am. So, yeah, what's the craziest COVID-19 coronavirus conspiracy theory you've heard?
Of it being manufactured by the government for our lovely 45 to be able to, be in presidency again or stir up something. But this is my take, is that it's not so much of a conspiracy, but I think my funny is that the coronavirus is the new STD.
Okay.
And
So all the protocol.
It's going to be pretty challenging, I think, in the dating world, especially where it's like, oh, have you had corona? Or like, on top of other things that we have to kind of be mindful of when it comes to that. So, and it's just like kind of looking at it in that perspective is like, we have to now have that conversation of
Right.
like, do you have it? Because I don't want to catch it.
Before you get into any pleasantries, it's like you just have to get that out of the way first, right? You just have to say, hey, like, yeah, right, like I can dig it.
Something else to add on to the list. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We covered a lot of ground, so I think I should let you. But like I said, I'm not a professional, but wait, I am. You got to get back to your professional job.
Yeah. No doubt. And thank you. And just on behalf of myself and Ryan, I want to thank you so much for giving us a platform to be able to speak on and allowing ourselves to, just to share actually and be real with you. So we really do appreciate that. And want to encourage those that are listening to come to our open mic every Wednesday from 6 to 8. And also perform and just celebrate the art, celebrate life, celebrate the connection that we're able to have. And hopefully we'll see you there next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, I really want to make sure to join the next one if I can. And let everyone know how they find it. Are you organizing it so they find it on Facebook?
So
I'll put the link on the screen.
Fantastic. I'll also send you the new update because we now have a new number with Zoom. I think we're pretty good with this number. We found a way so that we can stream it live on Facebook. So yeah, I'm like, we've been growing since
that's awesome.
Our first one, and I think we're on our 7th week.
Great.
7th or 8th week doing it. So the number, once I find it on my photos, want to go to Zoom.
Yeah.
And the number is 962-950-64407. And they can also go on Facebook. We have a fan page called The Quarantine Virtual Open Mic, or it's going to show as The Quarantine VOM. You'll see myself, my face on there, and Ryan's face on there. But yeah, this is for poets, singers, MCs, actors, dancers, artists, visual artists, producers, writers. It doesn't matter who it is, anybody and everyone. Lyricists, everyone's welcome. So yeah, they can
clowns. Are clowns allowed?
Clowns are welcome.
Clowns like me, Ronald McDonald.
Yes, you are more than welcome to come and show some. Even if it's like what is that? Silent miming?
Miming, yeah.
Miming, yeah. We encourage it all. So they can go on Facebook, and I know I think it's Miss Ryan Nicole on Instagram. She might like show some stuff on there too. But everything's mostly Zoom and Facebook. Right?
Cool. Yeah, so check out the Facebook page. It's a virtual open mic. There'll be a link on the screen and a link in the description of this video, or probably if you're watching, listening on podcast.
Woo-hoo.
And if they want to get a hold of you, Champagne, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, go on Instagram at Hey, that's Hey, DJ Champagne, or they can go to djchampagne.com.
Great. And we look forward to joining you more in the virtual space. Oddly, sometimes it brings us more together than apart, which is sort of, like I said, the brave new world. But once again, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to bring you on the show again and update you, or just have another conversation, or hopefully collab in the future.
Cool.
If you know of anything where we can collab, please keep in contact, and I will do the same. And good luck with your scholarly pursuits.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
We want to thank our guests, Ryan and DJ Champagne. We had a wonderful time. Thank you so much. We had a wonderful conversation. Look out for the next episode coming soon. We'll talk to you later. Have a great day, and keep creative, keep positive. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to share it, thumbs up, or leave a comment. Also, subscribe to our channel, Viral Media Network 415. On it, you'll find a lot of great other content. Check out the playlist. We've got podcasts, live vlog, hip-hop kung fu theater, local Bay Area hikes, and other great content. And we're always developing more.